Hello, adventuresses! I am super excited today. I'm here with Heather. Finally, no technical difficulties today.
Nope.
And maybe Uta will also be joining us at some point. But yeah, so today we are talking about getting injured while abroad. This is kind of our part 2. Last time, we did have some little difficulties. That's the thing about live. We are live right now, so
Exactly.
this kind of stuff happens. But yeah, so thank you guys for joining me today. If you are live and you are watching, go ahead and comment down below in the chat, like where in the world you are watching from. We're adventuresses. We're all around the world. So say hello to us. We love to hear from you and hear from where you are in the world. I'm in Germany right now, and Heather's joining us in Canada. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive into this topic. Yeah, Heather, getting injured while abroad.
Well, isn't that the most scariest thing that you can, I think that's probably the number one reason people are afraid at times. It's like, well, what happens if I get hurt there? I'll put my travel agent hat on. I've been in the travel industry for 25 years, and the number one thing that whenever you're traveling internationally, even leaving your home province, state, is to have medical insurance, because you just never know what could happen. Whether you're riding a horse or not, you could step off a sidewalk and twist your ankle and need to go to the hospital. Medical insurance, out of country medical insurance, is very affordable. And you can get it almost anywhere. Banks sell it. Lots of times it'll be included on your credit card, obviously through a travel agent, through AAA in Canada, through CAA or AMA. It's so important that you have that out-of-country medical insurance, especially if you're traveling to the US, to America. Medical coverage is very expensive, very, very expensive.
Oh, yes.
In other parts of the world, it is a little bit more affordable. I was hosting a group a few years ago, and we were in Spain, and one of the ladies, she slipped on the dance floor. I'm not going to tell you how much alcohol was involved in the story, but she slipped and she actually broke her wrist. So there was, okay, now what do we do? Where's the hospital? Getting a taxi. But the hospitals were so good. You almost always can find somebody that speaks English. And the one thing about when you're hurt, it's usually pretty easy to, point to your arm. If your arm is broken or your leg is broken, those are pretty visual things to recognize. But I can't stress enough that, having medical insurance, take a picture of the card. If you don't want to carry a big policy in your purse, but, take a picture of the card. It'll have the phone number of who you call. All of the phone numbers are going to be free to call, and there's going to be somebody on the other end of the line that is going to help you. First and foremost, if you need an ambulance, call the ambulance first and then call the insurance, because if you need an ambulance, perhaps we're in crucial time and those kind of things. So now, Crystal, you've traveled extensively. Have you ever had to utilize medical insurance while you're off in Bhutan or India or Mongolia?
So I'm a little bit of a wild card in the sense that I never had insurance in any country I went to. And I guess, I was traveling around working with horses. So I guess I always sort of rationalize, like, oh, I'm working. Like, they'll figure that out. Like, they'll do that. And that's kind of what happened. So because I was working, I've been in quite a few hospitals in quite a few countries. I didn't have to have an ambulance come. That never happened. But I did have some serious injuries because of horses, or sometimes not even horsey related. Like in Bhutan, I got altitude sickness of all things. And in India, I had Delhi belly, like every, I think, foreigner gets when they first moved to India. And but I went to the hospital for quite a few horsey things, and I was pretty surprised because I grew up in America, and in America, the medical thing is pretty bad. Like, it's super expensive, as you said. I remember I fell off a horse in the US and I did have an ambulance called on me. I was laying unconscious on the side of the road. And I came to before the ambulance came, and I'm like, I'm a horse person. Like, where's my horse? Totally oblivious that I was unconscious. And the ambulance came, and I remember I had been told by my dad, never get inside of an ambulance, because if you do, they'll charge you too much money and we can't afford that. So I knew that, like, I was 18 years old, and I like had this programming in my brain, like, no, you can't go in the ambulance, Crystal. So I just kind of like, no, go away, people. Like, I'm fine. But I think that's horsey people in general. We always like, act like the Black Knight from, what is it, that Holy Grail kind of movie, like, I'm fine. It's just a flesh wound. But yeah, so I never had insurance. I always, the job always kind of covered it. But to be honest, in many countries, like, it's super easy and super cheap, like, they take care of their people. It's not like the US, like medical coverage or whatever. I mean, it depends, like research or whatever, but like in India or in Egypt, like, you don't even need a doctor. You can just go to any pharmacy and get any kind of anything, which is a little bit scary, but you can get anything, like anything. I remember I needed like a vaccine, and I'm at the pharmacy. I needed this vaccine for whatever reason. And I asked the pharmacist, I didn't know the like name of the vaccine. So I just kind of like Google translated the squiggly lines and just prayed that that's the correct vaccine. Right. And the pharmacy guy, he's like, oh, okay. And he pulls out this little box and he points me to this like broom closet. And I follow him in this broom closet, and he like jabs me in the arm with this vaccine. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Here's some money. So, it is really weird. Like, in other countries, like, that is normal. And by the way, I was checking to make sure that the vaccine was sterilized, or like it came out of a box. So I guess it was fine.
He used alcohol on my skin before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, I'm a little bit bad about that stuff. We do have a comment from one of our viewers. Kate says long-term insurance of over 90 days is so hard to get for us semi-nomads. So Heather, I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Well, I do agree. The 90-day out of country insurance the longer you're gone, it can get quite expensive. However, if you break it, depending on how long you're going for, if you're only going to be gone for say 20 days and then going home and then going out again, you may be able to get a policy that covers you for X amount of days, and then over a course of the year, you're allowed to travel internationally as many times as you want, as long as, every 21 days or every 30 days you return home to kind of restart that cycle again. With it now, it is affordable based on, regular circumstances. If you have a heart condition, that may change your premium. If your level of risk. The one other thing to also take into consideration is when you're buying insurance to go on holiday, do those kind of things, is reading what they consider a high risk activity. In all of the ones that I have dealt with, Manulife, Allianz, Blue Cross, horseback riding is not considered a high risk activity like skydiving or bungee jumping, those kind of things. So that is
non-horse people.
Right. Right. I would rather go, gallop down the beach or the countryside on a horse than jump off of the side of a mountain with a chute that may or may not open. Even riding a wild horse over jumping up. But doing your research, reading what's actually covered. Again, traveling to America, you want to make sure that you have probably $1 million worth of coverage. I've read stats, a broken leg can be $50,000. And the difference between non-insurance and insurance in some countries will determine which hospital they take you to, because sometimes they have like the local hospital and then they have the hospital for people that have insurance. So we all hope that when we travel, we're not going to get hurt, but making sure that we do have that coverage. Lots of tour operators are requiring it now for you to show proof that you do have, out of country medical insurance, those kind of things, just to cover them. So you're not out in the middle of somewhere and they have to call a helicopter ambulance, and all of a sudden they're getting a bill for $10,000. So those are some great tips to take into consideration. Now, when, going back to getting injured abroad, we all know our bodies. So we all know, you're going to know if your leg's broken or if your arm's broken. But sometimes it's like, well, is it, I can still apply pressure. And we all, as horsey gals have ridden with some pretty, unless we're dead, we're probably still going to get back on and ride. I had a scenario where I lost my stirrup. We were on a gallop. I lost my stirrup in trying to get my stirrup back and keep my balance and not fall off. I twisted funny and I hurt my back, and so I limped through the rest of the week. And near the end of our tour, I had a massage, and the woman that did the massage didn't speak English, but she spoke French. And the girl that I was with was chatting with her, like, so is she going to be okay? And the lady's like, she needs to go to the hospital. And I'm like, well, and I didn't feel that I was at the hospital level. Like, if you're within, you're going to know if you need to go to the hospital or not. So, trust if your gut is saying, yeah, this is serious, I need to go, then you do need to do that, however, we are all pretty tough. So when you get home and you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, yeah, you have a torn muscle in your back. Oh, so that's why it hurt when I laid down. Sitting on the horse, no pain at all. So I just slept sitting in a chair for 4 days. But it was okay. Like I took and then this is the thing that makes horsey gals crazy, right? And my friends will tell you, oh yeah, she jimmied up 2 chairs and I took a sleeping pill and I slept fine. As long as I didn't lay down, I was totally fine. So I didn't need to go to the hospital.
Yeah. And I will say, though, one of the funniest things that I've encountered was when my mom started to travel. She had never left the USA ever until she was like 45 years old. And that was to come visit me in Egypt. And the number one thing she was terrified about was like, what if I have to go to a doctor or like the hospital in Egypt? And in her brain, that was like, she couldn't cope with it, because it's like, it's a third world country and it's dirty. And, they're going to, it probably didn't serve well that I just told that vaccination story in the closet, but that's what she's thinking in her brain. And, one of the biggest, I think, surprises that I had when I worked abroad in a lot of countries is like, you shouldn't be so terrified of the doctors in the local place. Like, again, like you said, like, use your instincts, you're going to know if it's like a no-go kind of a place. Right.
Yeah.
But honestly, I went to the hospital in Bhutan that was for altitude sickness. I'm not going to lie. It's not a beautiful facility. It's a hospital. Like, it's a working place. Mm-hmm. And I went there. The doctor, super professional, saw me, knew what the problem was, gave me my medicine, and on I went. But, I had some time to kind of sit there and watch him work with some of the other patients. And, like, there was absolutely nothing weird about being there. It wasn't like unclean. It was, it's a third world country or whatever. But you know what? Like, the doctor was super professional. Everything was clean. Everything was in little like plastic packages. You shouldn't be so terrified. And right. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people get really terrified. But actually, like, in the US, like, some of our best doctors came from Thailand or from India or from wherever.
South Africa.
Yeah, exactly. And they're studying in those countries, by the way. They didn't come to America and get certified. No, that's their like opportunity because they got certified in their country. But yeah, don't stress or worry about the quality not being as good. Some things might be a little bit funny, but honestly, like, there's a difference between like, that's their culture. If there's no chairs and they're sitting on the floor, all right, that's their culture, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong, So I think that's my biggest takeaway.
Right. And I do think that if you're at the point where you are seeking out medical attention, it doesn't matter if they're sitting on the floor or sitting in chairs. They are professionals, they've had training, really, if you're needing a doctor, any kind of training greater than the first aid that you learned in high school or those kind of things is going
be
to
worried
help.
if it's me. If I'm diagnosing you, that's a problem. Yeah.
Right. If they're like, take 2 Tylenol and a bottle of wine and you'll be fine.
Yeah, it's all good. So we do have a couple of comments from one of our viewers. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop them up. So Kate says, I'm a healthy 25-year-old, but most insurance companies won't insure you if you're not in your own country after 90 days. So because you're in India, it sounds like, for kind of an extended period of time, you're having a little bit more difficulties. And then here you said, I did get, I'm assuming, insurance for 180 days. Yes. So I'm not sure exactly when it comes to like the duration of travel insurance. Heather, do you have any knowledge about that?
I think it depends on your country of, like, your home country where you're actually getting the insurance from, and if you're buying it from a third party, whether you're buying it like through your, is the coverage coming from your, so for example, I live in Canada. The province that I live in is Saskatchewan. How much out of country does Saskatchewan provide versus if I was to go to an Allianz or if I was to go to a Manulife? Can you have multiple policies to give you the extended time period? That's maybe where the research has to come in. Now, I'm not sure where Kate's home country is, but that's something that that you may want to look at is, can I buy coverage from, if a specific insurance company only sells 30 days, 90 days, can I double up and have 2 policies, but one doesn't start until the next? I do know that lots of countries do have a requirement that you can only be out of their country for so long until they require you to, so you don't want to lose your citizenship and those type of things. As well, you may look at, now I see Kate, if she's going to be in India for, an extended period of time, maybe up to a year, perhaps there's an opportunity to purchase insurance from that country to give you that other. I'm not familiar with Nomad Insurance, but that would be something to look into.
Kate, I might have used Nomad Insurance. This would have been a long time ago, I think, when I did the Mongol Derby or something. I'm not 100% sure, but I do remember for that specific event, I did have to have insurance worth a certain amount of money, like a lot of money, because there was a big problem with this particular event that if you were medical evacuated, it was via helicopter, which is very expensive. So I think I did use them for something like that. I do know it's popular with a lot of travelers. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure, again, when it comes to travel insurance. I've done stuff for like specific events and things like that. But yeah, I think like Heather, like you're mentioning, you have to research a little bit. I know I did car insurance when I was driving across. I drove from the UK all the way to the stands. I drove through like Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan and all that stuff. And I do remember the insurance, because it was in the UK. My insurance ended in Turkey. And in Turkey, at the border, I had to buy their local insurance. And then every country after Turkey, they don't have insurance, so it didn't matter. So if you get in a car wreck, like, it's your own problem. But yeah, so I think it just kind of depends, again, where you're living, and you might have to, like you said, double up or do your research a little bit. But I do know that in some places, which are more higher risk or whatever, like, it is just more difficult to get because the insurance companies see that activity or the event or that place as risky. So
right.
yeah.
And
luckily, if you're in India, the vet, or sorry, not vet bills, the medical bills and stuff are actually pretty okay. Like I said, you could go to any pharmacy and get any medication, and the doctors in New Delhi, I know, are very good. I've seen them, and it's funny. I was in a hospital in New Delhi, and the guy was like, "Oh, I'm from Canada," my doctor, and I was like, "Why are you? That's okay." So yeah, it was quite funny, but yeah.
Yes. Now, when you mentioned the pharmacy, a pharmacist can also be an excellent resource if you're having, small things, you're having allergies, those kind of things, or you got a bee sting or those kind of things going in. And, we carry cell phones now pretty well everywhere we go. Google Translate is an amazing tool, but they're able to help you, with some of those things where you don't need to go to a doctor or a health center, but they'll be able to give you some guidance on, allergy medication. Maybe you touched a weed or something, and now you have a little bit of a rash. They will be able to give you, maybe some ointment or cream, or, you pulled a muscle. When my back was sore, they actually sold me this, it was like a bandage that had Velcro on it that you just wrapped around, and it heated up and it would stay warm for like 8 hours. Well, that was great because it kept, kind of warm pressure on my back when I was sleeping, because that seemed to be when you're not moving, that's when everything tightened up. Also, if you're having, lady time and you need, you need either maybe you need some Tylenol, maybe you need something stronger. In a lot of those places, the pharmacy will be a great tool. A cold, all of those things, and very inexpensive to go in and buy, a bottle of cough medicine or anti-inflammatories, those kind of things. So, and pharmacies are really, everywhere, it's either the Green Cross or, the pharmacies are well, they're easy to find. And if you're with a tour guide, on a specific ride with a group of people, your tour guide or your tour leader should be able to help you find it, and in some cases, translate if there's a language barrier.
Yeah, and I would also suggest, if you are staying for a long period of time, if you are like living abroad or an expat or something, if there's a certain brand which you're like, Advil or I don't know, Aleve or something, a specific brand which you are comfortable with and you use, which is not illegal, then I would just suggest stocking up when you're at home and bringing it with you. Put it in your check-in bag or something. Like, you're not going to get arrested for having a bottle of Advil. I carry Advil with me everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And in my purse as well, I carry a small little bottle. It's never been an issue. So, if you have something like that and you're like, oh, I don't know about those weird foreign brands, that's fine. Like, bring your little, whatever, cough drops or local things. But yeah, otherwise, like you said, the pharmacists, like, they're almost like doctors, these pharmacists abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they know how to, like, I remember I went to a pharmacy somewhere and I don't even think I spoke the language. And I was just like, and I was like miming, and they got it, and they just like threw me some like cough medicine or whatever, so yeah, it doesn't have to be a big drama.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually pretty easy. But yeah, so hopefully, you guys have found this helpful. I know we have another comment from Kate. She's super active today. I love it. So Kate says, one advice is to get an emergency contact from the local area with all your documents in digital form, and to walk them through what you expect in emergency if you are unconscious. Yeah.
Oh, that's a
very
great.
good.
Yeah,
that's very good.
To add on to that, if you were taking any medication, having it in its original bottle that says that you're diabetic, for example, and this is your insulin, and it has your name and the dosage amount, those kind of things. And even with your Advil and your Aleve, keeping it in its original bottle, because there are countries where certain things are, well, what pill is this? No, it's a Tylenol or it's an Advil. Are you sure it's not like cocaine or? And I'm exaggerating there, but making sure that the medication that you travel with is in its properly labeled bottle with your name on it. And really, this advice that Kate said, 100%. It. Always a good idea, even if you're alone and you have a little card with, if I don't want extenuant circumstances, or this is my mom's phone number, call her. Exactly. If I'm laying on the side of the road unconscious, like, unless there's like blood coming out of my ears, don't call the ambulance. Like, just give me a minute, I'll wake up. So
So I'm happy, Kate, that we are talking about this. It seems like it came in the right time for you. So I'm glad that you are enjoying this. And if there's anyone else watching, I know we've had a few people pop in and out. And yeah, just, even if you're watching the replay, like we still see the comments, we will still reply to all of you guys. So, comment, tag us or whatever, and we will answer you, even if you aren't watching this live. So yeah, thank you, Kate. I'm glad that you are enjoying this. And Heather, okay, I think that was a whole lot of information. It might even have to be a part 3 at some point. But yeah, yes. So this has been good. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure a lot of the other listeners have as well. So yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. I cross my fingers that nobody ever has to use any of this advice, that you go on these amazing horse adventures and, everything is good and you don't get hurt and you don't need to call an ambulance, but now you know what to expect in a hospital in Bhutan or India and all those good things.
Yeah. No, very true. I do remember when my mom came with me to Bhutan, I call him my big brother. But he's the guide for the horses, and he got really excited. He calls me Numo, his little sister. He's like, Numo, guess what? Like, what? And he's saying this in front of my mom, who literally just learned how to take riding lessons for this trip. He's like, we now have in Bhutan a rescue helicopter. So if any of you fall off, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. We can rescue you. And I'm like, oh,
yeah, not the thing to say.
So luckily that we didn't have to use the rescue helicopter, but it's just, yeah, it's not like even Bhutan has a rescue helicopter. So you know what? You guys are fine.
That's right. Well, let's hope that we only see the rescue helicopters on television shows and if we're touring an airport.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and happy trails, everyone.
Bye.